Don't you worry. It's only a story.
I felt the familiar prick of goosebumps on my arms, but I didn't bother to crawl under my blankets. My brain wanted me to move, to do something. Anything, but I wouldn't. A part of me wondered if I was just lying in bed because this is what I figured grieving people were supposed to do. But I didn't care. My eyes fell to the cup of coffee I placed on my bedside table, watching the steam dance in the air, kind of like white paint mixing with indigo. The light was fading fast. You lazy ass. Sit up, drink your coffee, and you'll feel warmer, I thought to myself. A few moments passed quietly. Lazy ass. I heard the soft creak of my door opening. The warm light from the hallway painted the wall I was staring at. For a moment, I considered pretending to be asleep. A part of me wanted to be alone out of fear of not knowing what even to say. Heavy footsteps carefully entered the room. I knew who it was. I felt him sit on the edge of my bed gingerly.
Hey, Penny Benny.
He gently greeted, placing a hand on my ankle. I crossed my arms tightly across my chest like a toddler. That nickname doesn't even make sense, Dad, I mumbled bitterly. He hummed pensively, retracting his hand.
Used to like it when you were little.
I rolled over to face him, not releasing my arms. I wanted to throw him out and tell him to leave me alone, not giving a damn that he'd probably punish me later. Most likely he'd order me to vacuum the backyard or something ludicrous like that. However, when I met his somber eyes, I felt his warm intentions hit me square in the chest. I could smell smoke from the charcoal grill on his shirt. He probably took a stab at making dinner for once, in light of the recent tragic event that took place just a few hours ago. But based on the excessive smoky smell, it was more of an attempt than anything. Something about such a mundane scent brought me so much comfort. I miss him, Dad, I said softly. I've never had a lifelong friend like him. A silent companion most of the time, but a companion nonetheless. To someone as cynical as myself, the humor of my best friend being an animal wasn't lost on me.
You two are the same age.
He chuckled under his breath. I realized he had been holding something in his right hand the entire time he was with me. It was a small framed picture. His eyes fell to it and he smiled.
You and little Skittles are the twins. You remember how we used to call you that?
He handed the photo to me. I sat up and admired the picture. There was a little infant lying asleep next to an orange tabby kitten. The baby was on her back, curling her fingers around her thumb blissfully. Yellow lettering on the collar of her onesie spelled her name. Penelope. I know he was old. I felt my throat tighten as I spoke. But why does he have to leave? Uttering those words made me feel like a 5-year-old, but it just seemed so unfair. For a moment, I thought I saw Skittles in the corner of my room, staring at me. But once I looked up, his figure disappeared. Since I had arrived home, he was everywhere, yet nowhere. I could see him lapping up his water, lounging on the couch, leaning against a doorway, but he'd never truly be there.
18 isn't a bad age for a cat.
He rested a hand on my shoulder.
You gave Skittles a great life. Lord knows I didn't want a cat. I wanted a golden lab, and your brother wanted a turtle. Your mother.
He shook his head, playfully rolling his eyes. I giggled, knowing he didn't even need to finish his sentence for me to understand what he was talking about.
To be honest, neither animal would have lived nearly as long as Skittles did. Not to mention, you've knocked over more vases and mugs than Skittles did when you were a baby. But here you are. Because of your mom.
He gave me a wink and a nudge as he allowed the last words to leave his lips, urging me to respond. I sniffled and wiped my nose with my sleeve, leaving a gooey mess. Even when I was feeling so low, the only thought that crossed my mind was, I'm disgusting. He wrapped his arm around me and squeezed me to him. Yeah, I still think I'm cuter. I choked out, allowing myself to smile. I couldn't bear the thought of losing a dog this way. I'd imagine I'd feel the same way about a turtle if I didn't also know that Dexter would hog the poor creature for himself. When we were little kids, he used to steal my toys and stash them in his toy chest, telling me that they were his. The poor thing would have starved or become the villain in his little teenage mutant ninja turtle action figure adventure.
Yeah, well, well, I suppose this might be a bad time to bring this up.
Dad began sheepishly, which seemed very much unlike him.
But a boy from your school had heard the news about Skittles' passing.
I wasn't surprised. I've probably told my entire senior class today about Skittles' death. Everyone who knew me understood that I thought of that cat like another sibling, so they knew his death was tremendously heartbreaking for me. I don't think many of them have seen him, but they knew he held a good place in my heart, especially since I couldn't be there to be by his side when they put him down. Okay? I pressed, brushing the tears from my eyes.
He told me to give you this.
He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. He examined it for a minute as if it was also his first time seeing it before he handed it to me. I nearly choked on my own spit. McCarthy Crematorium was printed on the front in standard copperplate font. Toby? I asked absently. Was his name Toby?
He said he was your friend.
He continued. Why did he give this to you? My voice sounded almost hurt.
I asked him. He said his family had special offers for animals.
His bushy gray brows grew closer to his eyes while he impatiently drummed his index finger on his growing stomach. Damn, he was getting bigger. He wasn't one to eat much, so it had to be a side effect of his heart medication.
Guess he saw this as an opportunity.
Well, it's not, I snapped. I caught myself and shook my head clear. The idea of this guy cutting open my cat and stuffing him was too much for me to handle.
Okay, all right.
Dad shrunk in his seat and raised a hand innocently.
Be careful with that tone of voice. Don't shoot the messenger. I figured you'd say no, but you were pretty adamant about me asking you.
My frown deepened. I'm sorry. I feel like you were about to tell me his reason for asking. He shifted in his seat, allowing his eyes to bounce around the room for a moment, as if retrieving his old train of thought.
He said it was because he knew how much you loved Skittles, and that Skittles was such a pretty cat.
He recalled as his eyes met mine again.
Just as well, though. The poor kid stank like a biology classroom.
I ignored the shot at humor, feeling a little queasy. Skittles was purely an indoor cat, and there were only 5 or 6 people from my high school that have actually been inside my house. Between Dexter and myself, we might have only 2 or 3 pictures of Skittles on our phones, and we weren't too much to brag about his fur except to our closest friends. Who the hell was this guy? Dad ruffled my hair and gave me a knowing smile.
I just want to see your smile again.
He stood up and held out his hand.
Feeling up to helping your old man out with the grill?
You may be the only dad who doesn't know how to work a grill, I joked, taking his hand. I reasoned that I would table the talk for later. And don't forget your new heart medication. That smoke can't be good for you. I slammed my locker shut. A party? I queried.
Yeah, dude.
Emma replied, leaning against the locker next to me.
It's my birthday, and I want all of us to meet at Crow's Corner. The murderer needs to be together.
I don't know, man, I replied, swinging my backpack over my shoulder. I've been feeling low after Skittles' passing. Plus, did you know that Toby decided to visit my dad? Fucking guy offered to have my cat stuffed. Look, when I first met him, I gave that kid a chance, okay? I even sat down next to him in class. There's something seriously off about him. He stinks. He writes in a notebook that looks like he dug it up out of his grandma's basement in his free time. Screw it. Okay, do you know what he told me the first day we met?
I don't know.
Emma sighed exasperatedly. He said that I looked like his favorite character from a book he was writing. I paused to bait her. A book about women being born from man-made incubators. More specifically, women made from dead recycled parts.
He's a horror fan,
she reasoned. Whatever, I groaned. I'm not in the mood to fight. You got any other stellar ideas?
Maybe he has a learning disability or something and loves to write sonnets. I don't know.
Emma rolled her eyes at me.
You're sounding like Jack. Are you gonna start calling him Frankenstein?
No, I know Jack's an asshole to the guy. I sighed like a husband surrendering to his wife's bickering about the dishes and leaned a shoulder against my locker. I don't want to be a jerk to him, but he said he's seen my cat. How? My house is a good distance away from the school, so it's not like it's a place people often pass when coming here.
Penny Benny,
Emma cooed, placing her hands on my shoulder.
You're doing that thing again. You're making something so damn significant. Gives a weird kid a chance, all right?
Fine, Mom, I jeered, sticking my tongue out at her. But how do you explain him seeing my cat and all that taxidermy shit? Emma shrugged. Jesus, are you high right now? I quirked a brow.
No. I'm just saying that he probably wanted to help or some shit.
Very enlightening, Emma, I remarked teasingly. I especially loved the "or some shit" phrase. It was incredibly witty.
Come to my party,
Emma stated, playfully punching me on the shoulder.
I want my favorite.
She blushed. I raised my brows at her. Lesbian? Were you going to say lesbian?
Oh. Maybe.
Wow, way to show how accepting you are of me by using me as your token gay girl. I rolled my eyes, turning on my heel to hide my laughter. Emma was easy to mess with, and I took every advantage to do so. I'll be there, Emma. If nothing else, to get my mind off my cat, though you can go screw yourself for having it on a Monday night, okay?
You won't be sorry,
she called after me. I tossed my middle finger over my shoulder, at which she responded with a hearty, ugly chuckle. Through it all, I still found her charming. I wasn't about to steal booze from my parents on her behalf, but maybe I'll get her a nice gift card or something.
Hey, Penny!
A voice from behind greeted louder than I was used to. Hey, I trailed off as I spun around. Toby? His large eyes seemed to stare straight past me. He stood a few inches taller than me with an expression that was completely unreadable. His hands were lodged into his gray hoodie pockets tightly. His entire body was tense, and his clothes looked like they were just loosely draped over a scarecrow. I could see his blue veins slightly bulging around the little bit of visible skin on his neck. He couldn't wear his hood up inside the school, so I saw his hair, which was surprisingly less stringy than usual. In fact, despite his expression, he seemed relaxed. Remembering what Emma had told me, I did my best to push my own prejudice aside.
I was hoping I'd catch you before class.
His lips flickered into a quick smile before they fell into a neutral position.
Because I was thinking about your loss.
I had to admit I wasn't sure what to say. Thank you.
Oh no, not like that.
He almost seemed offended to think I was thanking him for what I assumed was sympathy.
No. I think death is a celebrated event. It's where we transform. But I heard that you guys think that...
He chuckled, interrupting himself.
I heard you guys think I'm some kind of a whack job because of it.
If this is about what you told my dad, I said impatiently. The answer is no. I don't want my cat stuffed. But I will ask you where you've actually seen my cat since you thought he was so pretty. He took a shy step backward, but he didn't seem startled by me. Are you fucking deaf? My heart was working overtime. Maybe my language wasn't the classiest in the world, but I was actually starting to feel afraid of him. This guy looked like a clock that never told the right time. I wanted to intimidate him so badly. Where have you seen my cat before? He was clearly trying not to smile. He stared at me intently as he did in class. He smiled shyly at me. That was when he said something I almost didn't catch. It was so subtle that if I wasn't giving him my complete undivided attention, I would have missed it.
He liked to watch me.
His smile grew like an infection. There wasn't anything sinister about it, but it was the childish glee he took in saying those words that took me aback. He mouthed the words, "pretty yellow." As if he had said nothing, he continued.
Did you know I was invited to Emma's party?
I blinked repeatedly. I couldn't hide my surprise. Toby had been so close to my cat that he could see the color of his eyes.
Is there a problem here, Frankenstein?
I looked over my shoulder to see Jack strutting against the flow of students.
No problem,
Toby uttered. He slowly removed his hands from his pockets, giving Jack a weird little wave.
Do you know what Emma would like for her birthday?
She'd like for you to leave that death and dismemberment shit at the doormat.
Jack sneered, leaning towards him.
Come on, Penny. We're going to be late for class.
Even as we rounded the corner to the classroom, I felt as if Toby was staring at me, even though he was nowhere in sight. Our lantern's glow illuminated our little hideaway with warm light. Morgan sat on the ground while I sat on a rock above her, holding her in my arms. Emma's drunken laughter echoed around us. Her rosy cheeks were redder than ever. She slumped over my brother's shoulder like a gym towel. He carefully pried her off of him so he could wrap a blanket around her.
I declare, Mr. Dexter,
She jokingly called him, slurring her words.
you are a true gentleman. Look at you,
She poked him in the chest.
looking after little old me.
Dexter smirked at her and gave her nose a little pinch.
You can hardly take care of yourself right now, little lady.
He replied in a southern accent. He was really keeping it together for being the only sober one at the party. Even I had a nice buzz going.
Oh yeah? He's a real sweetheart.
Jack came up behind the two and gave Dexter's shoulder a squeeze.
That's why I'm going to steal him from you, Emma. You better watch yourself, for soon he shall be mine.
The three of us let out some gargled, uncontrolled laughs. You guys are stupid, I interjected gleefully. We all know the only love of Dexter's life is his mother. A few members of the group jeered and chortled in response at Dexter. Dexter flexed his jaw as he came up with his best comeback he could.
Are you admitting I'm the favorite?
Dexter teased, giving me a snarky expression. I'm just saying it's a one-way street, I retorted, pointing at him.
If you were in the middle of it.
Dexter responded.
I'd floor it, Penny. You'd be flatter than a model's stomach.
You mean I'm not already? I pretended to inspect my chest. I was never bothered by my tiny tits because at least they kept out of the way.
I'll get Toby to stuff her for you.
Jack nudged Dexter on the arm before strutting away from the couple. I groaned. Careful, he'll be here soon.
Don't worry, lass.
Jack snorted using a fake Scottish accent.
I'll sing an old sea shanty to keep the monsters at bay.
Shush, Jack, you'll scare all the woodland animals. I snorted. Besides, you can't even sing well.
Why, Penny?
Jack gasped in mock horror.
I'm offended. You'd say such a horrible thing about my beautiful voice.
He began to strut around the lantern singing Happy Birthday and stumbled on a few words. After a few embarrassing verses, he started to mumble and chuckle to himself, allowing his performance to fade out. Emma clapped her hands together.
No.
Dexter bellowed, desperately containing his laughter.
I'm not nearly drunk enough to take another one of Jack's siren songs. We don't need any of that.
But seriously, guys, you know what I want for my birthday?
A little too late to make that request now, don't you think?
Morgan giggled.
No, really, shut up. I want you guys to stay with me forever.
Do we need to write this in blood? I asked sarcastically. Emma clung to Dexter a little bit tighter and wrapped the blanket around herself.
I want this forever.
Okay, babe.
Dexter chuckled, giving her a squeeze.
Forever.
A strange, sobering silence flooded over us. The darkness encased us, giving off the illusion it was just us inside of a room.
Culata?
Morgan looked up at me as she rested comfortably in my arms. She held her fourth bottle of beer lazily, oblivious to the contents being spilt out onto the ground. Yeah? I gave her a comforting squeeze before taking the bottle from her hand and gingerly placing it on the ground.
Are you really going to California?
She slurred somberly. My heart skipped a beat. I felt the pit of my stomach twist as I stared at her. I don't want to talk about this right now. She opened her mouth to say something, but was interrupted by Jack.
Hey, guys, look who it is.
He stumbled on his own words. He hopped on top of one of the rocks, trying to keep his balance. His large frame casted a giant shadow on one of the trees.
Approaching from the east side is the one, the only, Franken. Wait.
He stumbled off the rock with his eyes fixated somewhere near the treetops.
What the fuck is that?
The four of us tried to follow his gaze. We stood up, one at a time, and started to line up side by side with Jack. Sure enough, there was something hanging from the treetops. It was round and swayed in the wind. The wind whistled and howled somewhere off in the distance. Jack took a few staggering steps forward, picking up one of the lanterns.
Be careful.
Morgan called out after him, gripping my arm. My eyes scanned the woods, watching the shadows dance in the wind. The silhouette still swung back and forth. Jack had just reached the edge of the clearing when the light touched the object. I screamed, nearly falling to my knees. There was Skittles. He was stiff and hanging by a rusty chain. Oh my God! I wanted to vomit. I fell to my knees, fully ready to expel the contents of my stomach. Oh! Jack approached the body cautiously. He gingerly grabbed Skittles by the tail to hold him still. He grimaced. With a shaking hand, he released Skittles and brought the lantern up to the cat's face.
Oh, Jesus!
My brother cried out.
I'm gonna kill that bastard!
What happened to his eyes? I couldn't look anymore. I could hear his footsteps behind me, but I didn't care. The wind sliced straight through my skin. I needed to feel it. I needed to feel it in my lungs. I could feel it again. My feet pounding against the rocks, my chest ablaze, jumping and ducking natural obstacles such as twigs and rocks. A car honked, dragging me out from my vision. I backed away from the busy road, but my chest still heaved erratically. The car zoomed past me with the driver angrily throwing an insult in my direction. I stared across the street at the woods just beyond. "Get a grip, Penny," I screamed at myself. "It's not what you think. It's impossible." The trees just swayed in the wind. "You're laughing at me, aren't you?"
Penny,
Dexter gripped my wrist.
tell me what Mom said.
They performed Emma's autopsy and found Dad's heart inside of her, I stated dryly. What psychopath would do such a thing? Dexter remained quiet for a moment.
Maybe Dad was a donor.
Brother! I spun on my heel and looked him in the eyes. I had reached my limit. Who would give up Dad's heart? His heart was always problematic, whether it be as small as heart palpitations or having a valve clogged. Something is wrong, very, very wrong. Dexter opened his mouth but was interrupted by the sound of the diner bell dinging. Donna carelessly had the door shut behind her as Morgan paid for the tab inside. What a cheesy move. Donna looked at Dexter, silently asking permission to approach us. When he shook his head, she grimaced and waited patiently for Morgan to exit the building.
Chances are good she's not going to be in the mood to give me a goodbye kiss.
He murmured.
I can't care right now, though. This is definitely not for her ears right now.
Dexter, we're in trouble. I know we are. I gripped his forearm. You told me we were.
I was wrong, okay? It's not possible.
There was a dangerous glint in his eyes I hadn't seen for a long time. It was something nearly sinister, unscrupulous.
I know where you're taking this, and we promise to never go there again.
Oh. I glanced around us, trying to avoid curious ears. So I guess you were just grabbing that yearbook last night for a stroll down memory lane, right? There was a long, awkward pause between us.
I can't believe this,
he said incredulously. His shoulders slumped as he looked up at the sky.
Between the two of us, the college graduate and the minimum wage pencil pusher receptionist, it's you that's superstitious.
I'm not superstitious. I don't know what happened that night, Dexter, but I know something bad must have happened. I ran. I was frightened. You need to tell me what happened. He stiffened. His hair blew over his strawberry blotched face as the tree branches would crawl against the sky. His eyes, blacker than I had ever seen them before. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he wasn't my brother at all. Dexter, you remember that night, right? When Toby was invited over?
Not here,
was all he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his car keys. The sound of Morgan exiting the restaurant caught his attention.
Need a ride?
He waved to get her attention. What? I asked. Morgan's eyes widened for a split second. All at once, her eyes and shoulders fell. Donna gave him a confused glare.
Yeah, Dexter. Why do you need my photographer?
It's okay.
Morgan interjected, giving Donna a reassuring grip on the shoulders. Her expression was the equivalent of a deflated balloon.
I've been expecting this.
My brows shot to the top of my forehead. I wanted to say something, but Dexter's eyes silently told me to keep quiet. Donna shook her head. Her cheeks darkened.
You and me are going to have a talk when you're done, Dexter.
She warned him.
I don't like secrets.
I know, Bunny.
He channeled as much sweetness as he could into that one affirmation, but the gloom that surrounded his eyes never relented.
I'll make it up to you, trust me.
Donna huffed, but nodded, brushing back a stray hair from her face.
Okay, Ducky. I love you.
I love you too.
Dexter responded, grabbing me by the arm and dragging me towards the car. Morgan was right on my heels. What is going on? I hissed at him.
You want to know what happened that night, right?
Dexter unlocked his car and nearly tossed me to the passenger side.
Morgan and I will tell you.